Hilchos Tumas Tzaraas Perek Arba Asar. The laws of impurity imparted by Tzaraas, chapter 14. We've done Tzaraas of the skin. We've done Tzaraas of clothing. For the next 3 days, till the end of the set of laws, it's the third type of Tzaraas. Tzaraas Batim. Tzaraas lesions developing on the walls of homes. The principles are always the same. Same way when it came to skin and clothing, the first thing is you have to make sure there's the proper lesion has the proper size, and that it has signs of impurity. Same things with homes. There's the lesion first, the size, and then there's the signs of impurity. And the same way when it came to skin and clothing. While you're waiting, if you just have a lesion with no signs of impurity, you go into quarantine. Same thing over here, you go into quarantine. But that's where the similarities end. The amount of quarantine is different for homes than for skin and clothing. What you do in between the stages of quarantine is different for homes than for skin and clothing. And it's a very fascinating section of halacha, the Tzaraas of the homes. Today's chapter is going to be defining the types of homes that are eligible to be susceptible to Tzaraas. Tomorrow's chapter will get the actual process of determining whether a lesion is Tzaraas. It's kind of like backwards the way it was in clothing. In clothing, it was the first chapter, chapter 12, was the process, and then chapter 13 was the specifics of which materials. Here it goes first the types of homes, and then the process, and then chapter 16 will be the Tuma, the severity or the degree of impurity imparted by a home that has Tzaraas. So let's get into it. Halacha Aleph says that Rambam Tzaraas Batim. When it comes to Tzaraas lesions on the walls of homes, the size is kishnei grisin ze betzad ze. It has to be an area of 2 grisin. So whereas skin and clothing is 1 gris, which as defined on the skin is an area of 6 by 6 hairs, for homes you need to have double that. So an area of 6 by 12 hairs. Let's call it 2 Sicilian beans. Nimtza reichav hanega, which means that the width of a lesion on a home will be k'may tzmichas sheish saides baguf, the area of 6 hairs growing on the body. The arkai kishtei mesrei saides, and the length will be 12 hairs, beribua, if you're going in a square, or rectangular. The apachas mishir zeh bebatim, if a lesion shows up less than this size on a home, tahir, it is pure. The kol hashiyur in halacha that Rambam reminds us, all amounts and requisite sizes, all these things are all received directly as a halacha l'Moshe Misinai from Moses on Mount Sinai. Halacha base, shleisha simanei tuma yesh bebatim. Like clothing had 3 signs of impurity. Truth is also skin had 3 signs, but very different signs. But the same 3 signs that were signs of impurity for clothing is also on homes. Mare yirakrak, umare adamdam, the hapisyan. Deep green, deep red, and spreading. These are the signs that make a lesion on a home impure. The kulan mefurashin b'Torah, these are all clear in the Torah. Interestingly, we'll see tomorrow, the process is delineated at length in the Torah, but is super unclear. And we rely almost fully on the sages' interpretation and tradition of how to explain it. But when it comes to the signs are clear. And like when it came to clothing, says that Rambam Mushnei Hamaris Mitzdarfin Zeim Zeh, the 2 shades, deep red and deep green, combine with each other. If you have 1 gris, let's say, of red, 1 gris of green, in total you have 2 grisin, that's an eligible lesion. Upisyan hasamuch kol shehu, v'harachik kigris. Also, like the clothing, when it comes to skin, to be a spreading lesion, it has to spread from the core lesion. But for clothing and for homes, you can have what's called pisyan hasamuch. You can have spreading that comes directly from the core lesion. But you also can have a new lesion appearing somewhere else that's also considered to be a spreading of the original lesion. So if it's pisyan hasamuch, if it's a spreading which occurs from the core lesion, close to the core lesion, b'kolshu, even the slightest amount of spreading is considered to be a spreading. The harachik kigris, but if it's a distant spreading, in other words, it's a new lesion appearing somewhere else, that new lesion has to be at least the size of a gris in order to qualify as a spreading of the original lesion and as a sign of impurity. Aval hachayzer acharei hitoyach kishnei grisin. But if a lesion reappears after the home has been recoated, we'll see tomorrow at length how this works. At one point in the quarantine, if nothing has changed from the time that the lesion was first spotted, you have to peel off the area around where the Tzaraas is and reapply a surface of clay to the entirety of the home. And then, if the lesion comes back, the whole home needs to be destroyed. That's in short, again, details tomorrow. That's called hitoyach, when you coat the wall with dirt, with clay. So At that point, if a lesion returns, it has to be the same size as the original lesion, 2 grisin. For pisya in regular spreading, only 1 gris is enough. But if it's coming back after it's been recoded, then it has to be 2 grisin like the original size. Halacha gimel, ein nige batim mitamin. The lesions that appear on homes do not communicate impurity ad sheyeh mare hanega shafo min hakir, until the lesion appears to be lower or deeper than the wall, like we had when it came to the skin. The appearance has to be deeper than the skin, even though not factually, but just the way it looks. Same thing with the walls. Shenemar, because it says in the pasuk, shka arurais. The lesions are shka arurais, which is a very strange word. What does that word mean? Sheyiu shoik ois bakirais. It's a conglomerate of 2 words. It has to be sunk into the walls. Both colors, deep green and deep red, are a sign to put the home into quarantine or to declare it fully impure, but not to have to destroy the home. Because with a home that's impure, there could be 2 potential stages. One where the home becomes impure, but doesn't have to be destroyed. And then if there's an even worse appearance of impurity, the whole home has to be destroyed. So the 2 colors will be enough to get a home either to quarantine point or to becoming fully impure but not destroyed. But spreading that sign of impurity could even cause a home to have to be destroyed. Such that if the lesion spreads after it's been recoded, again, details on this tomorrow, you have to destroy the entire home, as will be explained. Halacha dalet. When a lesion appears in somebody's home, even if it's a sage, who knows this is for sure Tzaraas. He shouldn't declare the decree and say, nega nir li babayis. Comes to the Kohen and says, oh, I have a lesion in my home. Rather you should say, as it is in the verse actually in the Torah, you tell the Kohen, kin nega nirli. It seems something like a lesion is seen to me in my home. Only the Kohen can decide. And the reason that this is important is because we're going to see in a second that once a home becomes impure, everything in it becomes impure. So you do not want to be saying, I have a lesion in my home. You tell the Kohen, I think I have a lesion in my home. And then you're still allowing a potential for purity. Then, the Rambam now quotes the verse, V'tziva hakohen ufinu es habayis. The Kohen gives the command to clear out the house. You must take everything out. It's like today with termites and everything, you have an exterminator, everything's got to go. You take out all the furniture, even bundles of wood or reeds, which typically are not able to become impure. Take them out too. Then the Kohen comes in, and he will inspect the lesion. In this way, you end up saving the potential of having all your stuff become impure, even though it's a big bother to obviously take everything out of the house. Halacha hey, ubayis ofel ein poischen by chaloinais, a dark home that doesn't have any windows, just a full stone home. The Kohen can't really see the colors. Ein poischen by chaloinais. You don't open new windows. Not just open a window like today. It means actually open in the wall, an area of a window. You don't do that, lider says nigoy, to check the lesion. If you can't inspect the lesion as it is, it's actually pure. Anyway, after the Kohen inspects the lesion, he goes out of the house, and he stands at the entrance to the home, on the outer side of the lintel, and he issues his decision, either putting it into quarantine, or deciding that it's going to be impure, or exempting it. And how do we know this? Shenemar, because it says in the verse, V'yotza hakohen min habayis, el pesach habayis v'hiskir. The Kohen needs to exit the home, stand at the entrance to the home, and then declare the quarantine. This is very exact. First of all, it means leisha yasgir v'hu b'seich beisai. The Kohen cannot declare the quarantine once he arrives to his home, after he gets home, because it has to be at the entrance of the home. But also, oy b'seich bayis hamenuga. He also shouldn't be inside the home that he's checking. It's got to be outside. Or even under the lintel. He must stand at the side of the opening. However, even though that's the ideal way, if the Kohen did stand under the lintel, or he went home, and then he declared it quarantine, the law still applies and has to be put into quarantine. A home cannot become impure with Tzaraas until it's a minimum size of 4 by 4 amas, about 6 by 6 feet or more. Plus, the yiyaloi arba ksalim. It has to have 4 walls. V'hubani ba'aretz, and it has to be attached to the ground. Ba'avanim v'afar ve'etzim. The material has to be stone dirt, and wood. Shenemar, because the pasuk, when it talks about destroying the home, in the unfortunate case where you have to do so, it says you must destroy es avonav, the es eitzav, the es kalafar. Habayis. The stone, the wood, and all the dirt, which means that it has to have all those things so the mitzvah can be fulfilled. If not, it doesn't even enter the arena of being eligible for the mitzvah. But if it was a size less than 4 by 4 amas, or it was round, doesn't have 4 walls, or it was triangular, or it was a pentagon, or it was built on a boat, not on the ground, or it was hanging, suspended on 4 poles, not attached to the ground, it doesn't become tamei even if lesions appear there. It's not tzaraas. If, however, it was just built with 4 poles, in other words, it wasn't a home suspended on 4 poles. That is the home. There's no walls. It's like a summer home or a portico of sorts. Then it does become tummy with tzaraas because it's attached to the ground, and that's what it is. That's the kind of home that it is. It's a structure. So it meets the criteria and becomes tummy with tzaraas. Halacha zayin kama avanim yubay. How many stones must the home be made up of? Ein pachas mishmayna, at least 8. Shtei avanim b'chol kaisel, 2 stones per wall. Kedeshiyah kol kaisel roi lenega, so that each wall itself could be eligible to have a lesion appear on it. She'ein abayis mitami b'negayim ad sheirah b'kishnei grisin al shtei avanim. Because a home cannot become impure with tzaraas unless there are 2 grisin on 2 separate stones. So even though halacha aleph, we were just saying the size of 2 grisin, but where they have to appear is actually on 2 different stones. Shenemar, because it says, it's talking about when they have to remove the stones at one of the points in the process we'll see tomorrow, they have to remove es ha'avanim asher bohein hanoga, the stones in the plural upon which the lesion has appeared. That means that every wall needs to have at least 2 stones. The kama yitzim yubay, how many wood beams have to be in it, kidei litin tachas hamashkef, just the amount of wood to go under the lintel. Not much else, not for the structure itself. The afar, how much dirt does there have to be? Kedei lases ben patzim lachaveirei, the amount that you typically put as like mortar between one stone or one brick and the next. And that's how much dirt has to be in the home. If less than that amount is in the home, it cannot, or it does not become impure with tzaraas. Halacha ches halevenim v'hashayish, bricks and marble, einam chashuvim ka'avanim, are not considered to be stone for these matters. And if there are bricks or marble pieces and this lesion appears upon them, it's not tzaraas. Bayis she'echad mitzidav mechupe b'shayish, ve'echad b'sela, ve'echad b'levenim, ve'echad b'afar. If you have a home with 4 sides, but one of its walls is coated with marble, one with stone, one with bricks, one with dirt. That's one translation. Others say it means these are 4 different cases. You have a home, one of the sides is coated with marble, or one of the sides is coated with stone. Bedrock, not stone that's built as a building, it's just somehow protruding from the ground. Bricks, dirt. One of the 4 walls, in either of the 4 cases, has one of these 4 materials. Bottom line is the whole home doesn't become tummy with tzaraas because you have to have all the walls be eligible for tzaraas, and in this case, they're not. Let's say you have a home which didn't have the requisite amounts of stones, wood, and dirt. And a lesion appeared, so it's not a tzaraas. And then, after you had the lesion appear, you added more wood, more stones, more dirt, and now it has the proper amount. Torah says that Rambam, it's still pure, because when the lesion appeared, it didn't have the proper amount. Halacha yud bayis shesikuchai bizroim, a home which was roofed with plants or stalks. Bitlan, that it's considered to be nullified, subservient to the home. It's like the home. Since they serve like wood would serve as a roof, they're considered like wood, not food. And therefore the ramifications would be, if the home is declared impure, they become impure with the severe impurity of a home that's tzaraas, as will be explained in chapter 16. Homes in Jerusalem and homes anywhere in the diaspora outside of Israel do not become tummy with tzaraas, because it says that tzaraas will appear on homes bebeis eretz achuzaschem, in the homes of the land of your inheritance. And we know, so first of all, that excludes Israel, that excludes diaspora, because it's not the land of your inheritance. Plus, V'Yerushalayim Jerusalem was never a portion to any of the tribes, so it's not called your inheritance. And also, homes belonging to Gentiles in Israel do not become tamei with Tzaraas, because again, they're not your inheritance, they're inheritance of the non-Jews. If somebody buys a home from a Gentile and there's a lesion on the wall, it should be inspected as though it were a new lesion that appeared on the wall, and basically the time that it was under the jurisdiction or in the possession of the non-Jew do not count to the time that we need for the process of home determination, as we're going to see tomorrow. A home whose one side belongs to a goy, the other side belongs to a Jew. One side is in Israel, one side is outside of Israel. It does not become impure with Tzaraas, because it has to be fully belonging to a Jew and in Israel. Any other home in Israel could become tamei with Tzaraas, whether they've been painted. The walls have been painted by hand of a human. Or they were naturally colored. Doesn't make a difference. Unlike clothing has to be white, stones could be colored, it's fine. Halacha Yudaled Beis Isha, a house belonging to a woman, Beis HaShutfin, a house belonging to partners, Beis HaKnesses, a Beis HaMedrash, a shul or a study hall, Sheyesh Bahen Dida LaChazan LaTalmidim, where there is a living quarters for either the attendants or the students that learn there. Mitamin bin Negayim, they could become tamei with Tzaraas because these living quarters make them into a home where somebody lives, and they become tamei. If a shul, however, nobody lives there, lesions on the wall are not Tzaraas. Halacha Tesvav. You could have in a house walls that are not eligible for Tzaraas. Kireis ha'evos, walls that are used for a trough from which animals eat. The kireis ha'mechitza, and walls that serve as a partition. The Rambam explains in his commentary to the Mishnah, the animals used to have these little walls built around their living space to protect them from the sun. Shebabayis, if either of these walls are in the home, I guess it was like an open window where the sun comes in, so you wanted to block it. So for the animals, you built this kireis ha'mechitza. The point is, these walls were not built for living intentions. Ein mitamim bin negayim, they do not become tamei. Even if lesions appear on them, they do not become tamei with the laws of Tzaraas.